Welcome to SML Total Access, the official podcast of the Sim Madden League. Now, here are your hosts, ZZ the Great and Primetime 000.
Hello and welcome to SML Total Access. We're back at it again, but this time I'm Primetime as usual, and we've got possibly a new weekly co-host. I got the meats. What's going on, brother?
On Prime, thanks for having me on. I think this is my first appearance on Total Access. It's been around forever.
It's been around forever. A long-time listener, first-time caller, pretty much is a good definition of that. So for the guys at home, we're gonna start doing this show on Wednesdays and also Saturdays. So one host is gonna be with me on Wednesdays and another host with me on Saturdays, just to mix it up, keep ideas fresh, and to not or try to avoid it being stale. Meats is possibly gonna be one of those guys. So. Anyway, we're going to go ahead. First down, right off the bat. We talked about this a little bit before. There's been some debate in the SML about taking things serious, taking games serious, good teams coasting, all that good stuff. What's your thoughts on that, Meats?
I think it happens way more than people like to admit, and usually they get away with it. But I want you to look at my game against Tiny and the Seahawks earlier this season. I went in and I came out guns blazing, and I threw it was a pick or a pick six on the first play of the game, and that really took me out of the game, and it threw my mindset all off, and I ended up losing by 2 touchdowns to a team that I should have beaten by 2 touchdowns. So it's like I think you really have to go in with the mindset to win every single game. Otherwise, you're going to catch somebody who's got that mindset for you, but you don't for them.
Yeah, I would say if you're a good player, you're going to get everybody's best every game, especially the guys who are subpar, because they're gunning to make a name for themselves. And kind of something that I've fallen in a bad habit of probably for the last two and a half Maddens now is coasting through the regular season and then trying to turn it up probably week 16, week 17 and get into playoff mode. I think that's come back to bite me a few times because it's hard to flip that switch, and also when competition's better, you're just not quite. It's harder to flip that switch. I'm guilty of coasting. I think there's a lot of key guys that are, and I think there's a quote by Kobe Bryant, something about if you're forming bad habits when you're coasting, and even if you don't mean to, when you're not giving your best effort, you're starting to form bad habits, and that'll translate later on. And I've kind of realized that. With myself, so I'm actually going to try kicking that habit. It's just it's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah, and for sure, I definitely agree with that, because you go into, and just using myself as an example, you go into a game not really worried about where you throw the ball, and you end up throwing 4 interceptions. I don't like to think that I throw a lot of interceptions. I think I throw like 15, 16 in that range a year. Or per season, and I threw 4 against Tiny, like I said, because I just wasn't on my game. I wasn't prepared mentally for that game. So you're really right, because once you get behind against the team that you feel like you should be beating, you end up making more and more mistakes, and that's how you end up with the picks snowballing.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Coasting bad, but it's very common. I bet if you surveyed the league of the good players, probably 60-70% of them would say, yeah, I coast from time to time.
There's no way that anybody who consistently wins 9 or more games doesn't coast for at least a couple games a season, I guess, depending on your schedule.
Yeah, no, I agree. So moving on now. Second down, total access. That's how we do things around here. Quick pace show. So second down. There's you kind of actually alluded to this already. There's different tiers in the SML. There's the best of the best, the elites. There's the very goods. There's the they're all right, and then they're bad, and then there's terrible. What do you think separates these tiers and really makes a difference in each of these tiers?
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to put out there that pretty much anybody can beat pretty much anybody in this league. Okay, you're maybe not going to get an 0-8 team to beat an 8-0 team, because by that point, those guys are pretty much on opposite trajectories. But you can get a guy coming in with 3 wins, in week 10 that puts up a really good fight and surprises somebody with 8 wins in week 10. And I think a perfect example of this is the game that the Chargers played with the Broncos a couple weeks back. It was Chargers were up by 7 with I don't know, probably minutes left, and they ended up losing by 7 in overtime. And I remember watching that game, and that's what gave me this idea was just you gotta play smart because DW needed to run the ball. All he had to do was run the ball, keep it on the ground, not turn it over, and he had it in the bag. He was about to go up 10 points. Well, instead he throws the ball in a double coverage. It's picked off. Dan being Dan, he ended up scoring, taking it to OT, and then winning in OT. So kind of with that same mentality, you gotta make the right decisions no matter the situation. And it's really easy to overthink a situation, and I have a tie on my record because I just did that same thing against Dump. That's a game that I probably should have won in regulation and ended up tying because I decided to pull up instead of going for 7. I pulled up on like the 2-yard line and ended up not being able to get it in. I had to settle for 3.
That sucks.
So it's situations like that. Don't overthink it. Just be smart and play smart football, Keep it on the ground when you should keep it on the ground.
Yeah, I think what separates good and very good / elite is it's kind of, and you're probably going to hate me for this, and I know we probably banter kiddingly in chat. It's the same thing that separates like Tom Brady from the rest of the quarterbacks who are in the GOAT talk. And by that I mean like Tom Brady is not the most accurate of passers in the NFL. Probably not even the top in NFL history. Top 5. I could name probably off the top of my head Marino, Peyton, and Drew Brees off the top of my head more accurate passers. I can name bigger arm guys than Tom Brady. Elway. The list goes on. That said, what Brady does is he never does too much. He knows what's required to win, and he does just that. He's not Phillip Rivers, because Phillip Rivers always is trying to be superhero, and he throws a stupid interception. And Tom Brady's he doesn't crack under the pressure, and he does what he needs to do to win. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, translating that to the SML, we can think about guys who stick skills, like I've won 16 championships, and your stick skills are on par with mine, if not better. You're probably better running around, but just a few things here or there, maybe reaching, maybe not, and that's just been the difference of a score or two in all those championships. It's kind of, I think that's what separates those tiers, is just a play here or a play there, and obviously a few lucky bounces along the way. For Tom Brady and in the SML, I mean, we've seen the Buccaneers maybe get lucky this season. We've seen the Patriots get lucky. It's all relative, but I think that just not trying to do too much and just trying to keep your composure, because composure is just so important in this mental game that'll drive your brain insane with the bull crap that happens.
Yeah, and I agree completely. And that kind of plays into the whole who's good in the playoffs versus who's not.
Yeah.
Because so I have that reputation for being that folding chair, which personally I think I've dropped, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Where you get to the playoffs, maybe you win one game and then you lose, or you go one and done. And that's just you gotta be mentally right. I remember season 1 I played Rowan in the wild card round, and that was his first playoff game in the SML.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just tell that he didn't have that playoff experience yet. And I didn't play particularly all that well, but I still ended up winning, I think, by 14.
Yeah.
It's about knowing what you're doing and not making mistakes and just playing smart football.
Yeah, and it's so much easier said than done, because you can almost see and feel when you're watching, for example, a Dan game, like if an interception happens or something, you just know he's going to find a way to win the game. You have that faith, you have that confidence. Whereas if Woods for the Browns has the ball with 1:30 left, you're not as confident. Even though he's a great player, even though he's won a lot of games, you're just not quite that confident, because he hasn't proven he can do it on a consistent basis yet.
You get to a certain level, and everybody's stick skills are pretty much on par with each other's.
Yeah.
And I think roughly the top half of our league is on the same level stick skill wise. And then it just comes down to mental mistakes and playing smart.
Yeah, who's better on the sticks, stick skills wise, Dump or Mad Bomber?
I gotta say Dump.
Who would you take in a game, Dump or Bomber?
But I'm gonna take Bomber in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about. I mean, it's at
It
least
really is.
it's a toss up, and I'd probably say Dump and then Bomber for the win. And it's just stuff like that because I think Bomber's just gonna find a way to win and keep his composure better, even though he'll probably drop a few WTFs on his stream or whatever. I don't know. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Third down though. Moving along, we're at 10 minutes here. Um, Best team builders, worst team builders. We've seen it all so far this cycle. Who do you think's a good team builder? Who do you think's bad? Maybe indifferent. What's your thoughts in the SML?
Okay, good team builders. I'm gonna go with the obvious. Because you end up with the Colts every cycle by choice, and they're usually not a very good team. And then now I'm looking where what 3.5 seasons in, and you have them at 85 overall already. You got Quentin Nelson's a 98. I know he's already really good to start. Jonathan Taylor 95. DK Metcalf somehow you brought in. Still don't know how that happened. And then I'm looking at your upcoming free agents. Even you just got all these like top tier veterans: Casey Hayward, Mike Williams, even BJ Hill's an 82. It's kind of wild that guys that just play for a long time just kind of know what to do and how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then other guys, let's take a look over staying in the NFC or staying in the AFC at Miami. I'm sorry, Paula, you just cannot build a team very well. You're a good player. You're a lot better player than you give yourself credit for. I will say I think he's improving because he did just trade for that X Factor quarterback, but at the same time he traded away, like I think somebody brought it up on Heat Check or something, and said he traded away like one first round pick for another first round pick. Like it didn't make a whole lot of sense on paper, at least. Like he didn't get a whole lot out of that. And then, I mean, yeah, the Dolphins roster is just not the greatest. And we're 3.5 seasons in. It should be okay. He doesn't have an offensive lineman above a 78, and that 78 is a 32-year-old. He's got a good young quarterback because he just traded for him, sure. Breda's a 90, but he's already 28. He's got Hines behind him, who's young, who he traded for early in the cycle, but he's not his lead horse back, so it's like hard to develop a guy that's your second stringer. And then his wide receivers, Devontae Parker's an 84, but he's 30. Scotty Miller and Preston Williams, those guys are both okay. They're low 80s, but they're 26. He doesn't have anyone under the age of 26 above the overall of 70 on that wide receiver core. I think guys put too much stock in what's already there and not in development, which is weird to say because you would think development's the go-to.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm looking at, obviously I play this guy twice a year, but I'm looking at Mad Bomber, who I think you have to kind of know the game you play. And a lot of people fall in the pothole of thinking offensive line is a telltale sign of greatness. Like if you have a good offensive line, you're going to win a lot of games. But in Madden, that's not the case. The Jaguars are fourth in the league in points, and they don't have an offensive lineman higher than 77 overall. I mean, if you look at their line, it's pretty bad actually. But they have a playmaking running back. That he's drafted. They've got receivers. He's traded for Claypool. He's developed Chanel. Obviously, Chark was already good. This defense he's developed. He took that cornerback. Oh Lord, I forgot the Street. Cortez Street. He's already 89 overall with 95 speed. He traded for Khalil Mack. I mean, he's built a very strong defense, and he said, hey, look, I'm not going to waste money on offensive line. Unless if I draft a superstar, I'll probably use that. I'll plug that guy in and dominate. But if not, then I'm just going to sign cheap guys and spread the wealth elsewhere. The only knock I have on Mad Bomber is what he did at quarterback. I know he traded for Josh Allen. He gave up a decent amount of assets for him and immediately paid the guy with a 6-year contract, I think around $70-80 million. And Allen's ratings were not that impressive, and they're still not that impressive if you look at them. 82 short accuracy, 85 mid, 83 deep. Huge arm, decent speed. But I've seen Allen miss some key throws even this season for Mad Bomber. And I think that his biggest mistake, and if he does not win a Simbardi this cycle, it's because he mismanaged probably the most important position on a team, which is the quarterback position. Now, that's not to say that he could still get Allen up to par, but now he's 27 years old. Unless if he gets a few, he's only normal development, which is even worse. I mean, it's not like this is Josh Allen of this year. This is Josh Allen after last season, which was mediocre. So he's normal dev. He's 27 years old. Probably not going to get that much better, and he's got an expensive contract. That's my one knock on Bomber is just how he handled the quarterback position. A few other guys that I want to know. I like what Washington's doing. They got their playmaking running back. Obviously, that team was kind of built for success in the future. We've seen the last Madden. Too bad Blunt Burner traded away one of those defensive ends. But Blunt Burner did get Malik Adkins, and now we're kind of we're starting to see him Adkins do well. You know, this isn't going to be a Nolan Holt situation where a career goes to waste. This for the SML OGs, you'll know who I'm talking about. But Malik Adkins is starting to come into his own. So I kind of like what I see with these two teams, kind of build monsters.
Yeah, one I wanted to touch on the offensive line thing real fast and I'll be the first to admit it, and I said this openly in chat many times. I do not believe you need a good offensive line in Madden to be successful. Um, I've even taken it to the practice field and like run experiments to try to figure it out, and I do believe that you need a certain level of offensive lineman, and I'm not going to give away my secrets for building an acceptable offensive line, but I don't think you need a great one. And that's why last cycle you saw me trade away Orlando Brown, who at the time was my best offensive lineman, and I got Freddie Golden out of it. And I traded away Ronnie Stanley, and I got, some other good player out of it.
I do want to say, I mentioned it on a previous show, and I'm not sure if you've seen it. I think if the Cardinals want to develop to the next level, getting that Freddie Golden type of running back, it will be your friend. I'm not sure if by committee is the way to go with this man.
I saw that, and I will be honest with you. I heard you, and I pretty much have benched Philip Lindsay at this point.
Oh, okay. Well,
he's only my starter at power back now,
yeah.
Which and I actually just cut Ito Smith like right before recording this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So moving on now, fourth down. Speaking of running backs and running the ball, that segues to the Patriots. A big time runner last season. This guy now, he's kind of trash, What's going on with Matt? What's going on with the Patriots?
It's extremely simple. Okay. A lot of teams you can look at and be like, all right, well, they suck, but I don't really know why. For the Patriots, it's extremely simple. And if Matt wasn't so stubborn, he'd have a lot more than 2 wins right now. He comes into the season saying he's going to, try to upgrade Drew Lock. Well, dude, Drew Lock's a 91 overall already, superstar. Like, he's 26. Like, how much more deving does he take? You just re-sign him to a massive contract. He's fine. And then last season, which would be the 2022 season or season 36, Rashad Penny carried the ball 306 times for almost 2,100 rushing yards. That's Rashad Penny. That's I'm pretty sure he's an X factor now, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't even a superstar at the start of last season. And Drew Lock attempted less than 190 passes last season. And he played every game. This season, Drew Lock's already attempted 190 passes through 9 games. And he's run the ball between Penny and his rookie Lance Camp about 150 times. It's and he's kind of like what we just touched on. He's kind of doing that committee thing. Rashad Penny still got 50 carries, but it's obvious that he wants to dev his rookie running back because he's got the most yards and by far the most touchdowns. So just like stick with your number one running back and don't throw so much.
Do you think at this point he's tanking?
He says he isn't. What did he just lose to the Cowboys last advance?
Yeah, he threw seven interceptions he threw against Graham.
Yeah. So I don't think I don't think losing and 7 interceptions is how you dev a quarterback. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know personally because I don't think I've ever thrown 7 interceptions in a game.
that's
But
that's bad.
come on, man, run the ball. Grams has been bad the
Yeah,
last 2 seasons.
yeah.
All he had to do is run the ball.
Yeah, I just don't see why Matt is so upset with his team. I know there's some flaws in it, but Drew Lock is a solid quarterback. I mean, his short accuracy is 86. I'm pretty sure the threshold is 80. I would have to see the plays that he's upset about to know if his complaints are accurate. Because knowing that Matt's a bad passer and then blaming Drew Lock, sometimes you tend to believe that maybe he's complaining about that himself, and it's not actually true. But all that said, I think it, like you said, if he just runs the ball and sticks with short passes, he'll be fine. But this season's probably a lost cause with him because he got hell bent on boosting Drew Lock when he really shouldn't have. If he just limited the mistakes and ran the ball more, he probably beats Dan in the AFC Championship last season. So who knows? Matt, a little shocked, but it is what it is. Um,
And I think a major reason that he's losing because he's throwing the ball, he doesn't have any great receivers. Yeah, he's got Michael Gallup. He's a 91, but he's not a superstar. He's just a star. Who's also third in the team in receptions, third in yards, and first in drops.
mhm.
And then he's got Alan Hall, who I'll be honest, I've never heard of, but he's a star dev, 83 overall, and Dion Kane, who I believe is a former Colt, but he's a 27, 81 overall.
Yeah.
So
So
it's like he doesn't have that DeAndre Hopkins, that Julio Jones, that Mike Evans to really help him.
yeah. So there you go. I know he took over. What was it? Season two? Did he take over, or was it season
Uh,
three?
I believe so. I could look it up, but
Because if you recall, Rowan Kuh took over season two of last cycle, and then he kind of had this thing where he just blamed the previous owner on poor team building skills. And when it was season
he
like nine, Matt's kind of heading
he
down
took
this.
o-
Oh, go on.
sorry, he took over halfway through season 2. So
Okay, so we're in season four now. So if Matt continues down this trend of blaming PJ, pretty soon we're gonna be in season eight, and it's just gonna be Matt's fault for not doing something about it. Um, Anyway, moving on now to the extra point. Um, which SML member do you dread playing the most?
I gotta be honest. I don't really think I have an answer to this one. Uh, because I like playing the top guys, even the guys that are significantly better than me. Um, because it helps me work on my game and it gets me ready for the playoffs. Uh, I think if I had to pick out of every team here, probably Dump in the 49ers. And I know he's gonna listen to this and I know he's gonna feel good about himself. But I would just like to remind everybody that I have a winning record over him. He's just the last couple of seasons, the ground game has been annoying. Like he's so good on the ground, it's just been annoying to deal with. And he doesn't give up when you stop him on the ground either. He'll keep running it. I think he ran his rookie running back had 32 carries against me, under 5 yards a carry the other day. So um, he just plays so differently than everybody else in the league that it's kind of a headache to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, for me, Paulie's kind of a pain in the butt to play because he's a good player and he studies and he's got this annoying style of play where he kind of lulls you to sleep, and then next thing you know you're down 10 points, and he knows what you're going to do offensively. Um, so for me, I would say it's Paulie. Um, Coop plays me really well. I think it's just a matchup thing. He always has, and I think he always will. That's just how the ball rolls. Those divisional guys who you play twice a year, and for whatever reason, football is a game of matchups. You see it in the NFL all the time when a team that might always be in the playoffs against a team who's not, they just give them good games sometimes. And I think Coop, I kind of dread playing Coop. So
I'll,
that,
s- I'll, s-
go on.
I'll stand by the fact that Coop is a lot better than his record because he
Yeah.
beat me. He just beat Bomber. He's beaten you before. No, he just got blown out by Bomber, but he's beaten Bomber before.
Yeah, Coop is good. He's one of those guys I wish he would just stay dialed in. I'm not sure if he always is. And that's not a shot at you, Coop, but I think if you were dialed in all the time 100%, you'd be just about a perennial playoff contender at least. Um, Anyway, that's all I've really got. We're nearing 25 minutes here on the podcast of Total Access Meets. I appreciate you coming on. Guys, this was SML Total Access. Meets, do you have anything to say before we close her out?
No, I'm just looking forward to doing this again in the future, and we'll see what we got here.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, thanks for listening. This was SML Total Access, and you guys have a